Good evening and welcome to the March 18th, 2026 meeting of the Poulsbo City Council. I am Deputy Mayor Gary McVeigh, sitting in for Mayor Ed Stern, who is on city business. Our first order of business is our land acknowledgement, which will tonight be read by Councilmember Doug Tabler.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Poulsbo is located on the ancestral lands of the indigenous Suquamish people, for whom this place was known as Tuk-Tuk Lats, or the land of the vine maples. And now a quote from Chief Seattle from 1854. "Every part of this soil is sacred in the estimation of my people. Every hillside, every valley, every plain and grove has been hallowed by some happy or sad event in days long vanished."
But thank you, Mr. Tabor. Next, I'd invite you to stand as you're able for our Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, this one's different. All right, thank you very much. We are now on to our agenda review. We do have one change to tonight's agenda, and that is under our workshop. The Visit Kitsap Peninsula update will not happen this evening. We'll have to schedule that for another day. The executive director has let us know that she is ill and not able to join us this evening. So we'll be removing item A from the workshop agenda. So with that one change, that is my only, to my knowledge, that's our only change tonight. So I would entertain a approval of our agenda.
Deputy Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Tabor?
Tabor, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Lived aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Newell, aye.
Thank you, council members. We are now on to public comment. Any citizen who wishes is able to address the council at the podium for up to 3 minutes. Council members generally do not reply directly to public comments. Are there anyone who wants to address the council this evening? Will you please come up and state your name and where you live?
Hello, I've got a voice, but my name is Deborah Strawn. I represent the North Kitsap School Board of Directors. I represent District 1's Poulsbo. Mike has come to one of our meetings at least and has introduced himself. Just like to voice the support for the partnership with the city and the city council. Thank you.
Deborah.
Thank you for joining us, Deborah.
Mhm.
Any other citizen comments this evening? Last call for citizen comments. All right, seeing none, we will move on. We are on to our mayor's report and council comments. I should also note Councilwoman Crow is expected to join us, but maybe a bit later on this evening due to a work conflict. Mr. Tabor, do you have some comments for us this evening?
I just want to thank the council and all the citizens that came and spoke on public parking. And I thought that was a really constructive and insightful meeting, and I look forward to working more on it. And looking forward to getting into the rest of the meeting tonight. Thanks.
Mr. Eckert.
Yeah. Good evening. So last Saturday was the county's military appreciation night at Fairgrounds. When it was a good event, a lot of familiar faces, both at the tables and as well as some of our county commissioners were there. And the mayor of Bremerton, Greg, speaking. So good event. always recommend for folks to go because it's not just services that are represented for veterans. It's all kinds of stuff. So always a good event. I had something I wanted to address tonight just quickly, but importantly, we did not look forward enough and recognize that our next meeting is scheduled on Passover. And for that, I want to apologize. It's a holiday. It's an important holiday. We have a lot of community members, staff members that this impacts. We should have been more forward thinking. Unfortunately, we can't change the meeting. We have things that are timely that we need to address that night, or we would. And so there's been some community members that reached out to us. I've spoken to them directly in response. I talked to the mayor about it and how it impacts staff. And just so note that that's something that we do need to do better on, and talk to Rob. We're gonna, try to just be more forward thinking. I apologize myself because as has been my habit lately, I come to these things too late and it's, just don't have time to make changes. So to those impacted by that, apologize. And like I said, we'll do better in the future. And then again, that meeting that night, I'll say something as well to recognize the event, the nature of the holiday, but just wanted to make sure I mentioned it tonight. And then on a much less serious note, we know our city emails and phone numbers and website, all that stuff's changing. So I did have a thought. I reached out. This one I was actually in time for. I reached out to Rob and Brooks and Rhiannon about if they were going to order us new business cards with all this new information, and they hadn't done it yet. So I actually got ahead of it and made this and asked if we are able to put digital business cards on our city phones and then not have to order paper ones again with all the changes. And so Brooks looked into it. There's one that Rob uses. Brooks said it's safe to put on our phones. So if you're interested, talk to IT and he can help you. I'm going to go ahead and do that and put it on mine. I was introduced to that by somebody at one of our conferences, and there's the version you can just kind of sort of scan it and it becomes a contact. You don't have to actually remember, which I never do, to actually carry business cards and give them out and all that. So other than that, look forward to our meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Ms. Livedall?
I have no comments at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to reserve my comments. Mr. Newell? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Fitzpatrick?
I just wanted to say good evening to Deborah, and that I've slowly been learning how to best communicate with her and with the school board, and I will be having meetings with her and school board president and Superintendent Davenport at some point in the near future. So welcome tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Newell.
Yes, Rhiannon. So one thing I want to convey to the public and to my colleagues here is that we've been having a great conversation together. And the reason I say it's great is it's been open, it's been transparent. We've had a lot of discussion, thoughtful discussion about what something is that where we're not in complete alignment on what's going forward. One of the conversations we had last week was regarding with parking, and into that standpoint was, what about data? What about the impacts to business? How can we measure that? What changes might we see? I'd just like to share that that Placer AI tool that we have access to is quite powerful. And this is the data in blue from the first week in March on a daily basis. Monday through Thursday, about 2,000 visits into the downtown business environment. I just picked a week at random from last August, and it shows about double that through the week. Saturday's busier. Reason we point that out is that there is seasonality. There is a difference in this. And I was not like, oh, gung-ho investing money in AI until about 3 months ago. I started playing around with a couple of AI models. They've actually become quite good. Next slide, please. And when I asked just an open-ended question, what about parking in Poulsbo? It was impressive the amount of information that it pulled up. But one of the things was back to a couple of years ago when we were having conversations about what is this studied environment. Donald Shoup did a lot of research in there, and I think his book was called "There Is No Free Parking," and I think we've quoted that a couple times. But in that, it's basically said the threshold for paid parking is 85% occupancy. With the changes in our adding employee parking, we're not at 85% Monday through Thursday downtown. Suspect we get there at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. But then it popped up, kind of what a lot of us have been talking about is, should we be staring at seasonal paid parking? Should we be looking at the first hour free? What about further studies, specifically merging our Placer AI data, which is really tracking individuals? And for those of you that don't know, it's picking up cell phone anonymized and merging it with what we're seeing from LAS with actual what is the parking congestion data. I remain committed that I think that if we do something, we should link it to some immediate benefits to our community. I think we need shuttle services in summer on days when our visits get over 5,000. It's the Saturdays and Sundays of the world. And I also firmly believe that we should take action to move forward our projects to improve sidewalks downtown. Next, please. Which include things that are already identified, whether it be improving 3rd Avenue, which is in the pipeline and noted as number 2 above, Viking Avenue, which is number 4 on this page, or 5A and 5B, which is Hostmark. I think leaning forward, pulling those forward, making those investments as we try to improve downtown will make a difference. It'll make it easier for us to get downtown. And so looking forward to conversation here in 2 weeks. And Rick, I agree with you. I did not think April 1st other than April Fool's Day. So appreciate you putting that out and stuff. So just 2 cents in that standpoint. We're blessed in a day where we have lots of data that base our decisions on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newell. I also appreciated the quality of our last meeting. Mr. Fitzpatrick tells me he went back and looked at the timestamps on our parking workshop discussion, and we went on for an hour and 40 minutes. It was a good, detailed conversation. I don't think anybody who's followed this in our community can accuse the council of giving it short shrift. We've really dug in with the help of our staff, and it's been a good conversation. But I think I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that at some point soon, we need to come to some decisions. We've heard from some members of the community and some council members who feel like the longer this drags on, the more confusing it sometimes gets to people. I think my understanding from talking to City Administrator Gelder is that at our April 1st meeting, we will be picking up the downtown parking conversation again, and trying to corral the various opinions, points of view that they heard last week, and presenting us with a few options for consideration that then after the April 1st meeting, we might be in a position to move the parking discussion to the business agenda for some more definitive action. I think, I might bring this up later under questions and concerns of the council. I really kind of felt for staff after the conversation last week a little bit, because there were so many differences of opinions. I mean, having differences of opinion is a good thing, but it can make it really challenging for our staff, I think, say, okay, what do I do with this information? So I think we ought to have a conversation about, at the end of some of our workshop discussions, how can we best summarize those, whether we do it or the staff helps us with that. I know in the past, Mr. Eckert has sometimes kind of forced us to go around the workshop table and express an opinion. It's not necessarily a vote. We try to avoid taking votes during the workshop, and I don't really want to go that direction myself. But I do think that we need to make sure that we are giving clear guidance to our staff after a very diverse hour and 40-minute conversation. So I would just ask my colleagues to think about that, areas for possible improvement in our workshop discussions in the future. other than that, we had, to my knowledge, we had a successful Poulsbo beer run last weekend. I saw lots of people out in the streets. I personally did not hear of too many problems. So it looked like everybody was having a good time, and it looked like a good event for downtown. And I think that's all I have this evening. So with that, we will move on to board, commissioner, and outside agency reports. Does anyone have anything to contribute under that category? All right, I have one. I did attend my first board meeting of the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance today over at the Port of Bremerton. Good meeting, good turnout. Their board is larger than I realized. There's 37 people on that board. So a lot of folks, a lot of opinions. What's that?
Is it a big enough table?
In fact, they didn't even try to get people at the table, other than the chair of the board. The rest of us were kind of seated in the audience, if you will. So it was a little different, but made for, I think, kind of good roundtable discussions. They did. I had to leave early to be back here in time, but they were taking a vote on. They've had what they call their One Kitsap strategic plan. It's a 5-year strategic plan. We're in year 3 of it. They were approving the new year's strategic goals and tactics. So, Rhiannon, if you would remind me to share a copy of that, or perhaps you could do that. I would just need to verify that nothing changed after I left. I think it'd be council members might find it helpful to review the this year's new strategic plan for the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. I think that's all I had under that category. So we are now moving on to city administrator and department head comments. What? Sorry.
I guess this probably
Okay.
counts as an outside agency, I guess.
I'm sorry.
I guess technically it counts as an outside agency. Kitsap Builder Association had its luncheon today where they brought in a guest speaker. Councilmember Newell, myself, and Heather were there. The lunch, very data heavy presentation. I'm not even going to attempt to relate what she shared, but extremely data heavy, extremely useful information. I think what I would share is that they do have she has a site where we can pull some of that data from. It's national numbers, state numbers, and then it was the Bremerton, Silverdale, Port Orchard metropolitan area. So I'm not sure necessarily if we're counted in those numbers or if we're just on the periphery, but the numbers were good numbers to look at. Some of it's stuff that Heather's and Nicole presented to us. It was nice to have comparisons, but very good presentation. And some things were a little scary, but it all impacts the work we do. So I'm glad I was able to attend. I know I got a lot out of it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Anything else? Okay, now we're moving on to city administrator and department head comments. Mr. Rob Gelder, our city administrator.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. Just a couple of light items this evening. If you notice that any of your staff tonight wearing a jersey, sporting jersey, this is all part of Spirit Week for the city of Poulsbo. And we started off Monday with a matching Monday, which was pretty fun. I think we had all of the finance department was in plaid. So they were matching. We had a couple of our folks in the clerk's office. They were twin 1 and twin 2, right? Thank you. And so it was just kind of a fun thing. It was just a way to kind of build a little spirit. And it's one of the things that are sponsored by our wellness committee. Yesterday, of course, we observed St. Patrick's Day, so it was all about the green. Today, Winning Wednesday, so folks were able to wear their favorite jersey for their team. Tomorrow will be Silly Socks, and then Friday will be Sparkle and Shine. You might say kind of why is this important? And I think that really the whole purpose behind it is not just there's that whole piece of that collegiality, and that's when you spend so many hours with your teammates, it's really important to be able to have a little bit of fun as well as doing a really good job, and your team is definitely doing that. So hats off to all of them. And then finally on Friday, we will be hosting a field trip from Cross Point Academy. So we have a group of students that will be coming and learning all about city government, whether it's the legislative, executive, or the judicial branch, and we'll throw in a little tour of the police department as well. So anyway, that is about it. Thank you.
Other department heads have updates for us tonight?
Good evening, council. I just have a couple of things to bring you up to speed on. The first one is the bid opening for the 11th Avenue Sewer and Gateway Sewer Project is tomorrow. So we'll be bringing an award to you in early April. I did sign a contract within my authority for the repair of the Lincoln Roundabout. So anybody that has noticed the concrete damage there, Mike tells me that contractor will be out in the next couple of weeks to make that repair. We will turn it into our insurance agent to deal with recovery of costs on that. We held a pre-proposal meeting with haulers for solid waste on Tuesday. We had one hauler outside of Kitsap County attend and ask some very good questions, and they may submit on the proposal. The initial phase is for them to provide an industry review to tell us if there's anything that precludes them from competing. And I also wanted to let you know that Snyder Well Drilling is out working on the Lincoln Well. They did pull the pump. They did scrub and brush the screens, and they will continue some testing. They've pulled the pump, and they'll be making some repairs on the pump, or at least make sure it's in great condition. And so far, things are going well. They do anticipate that they will complete their work by mid-April, and then we will share the results with council after that work is complete. And that's it.
Excuse me.
Mr. Newell has a question.
Yeah, Diane, just quickly, when you pulled the screens and pulled the pump, was it as you expected, i.e. that looked like the problem?
There was not an evidence of a big issue with the screens. They did clean them, but the clogging could be in the material behind the screens outside of the casing. And they have a number of methods that they use to do that. And we'll share all of that at the end. It's pretty interesting work that they do.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions for Diane? All right. Other department heads have updates for us.
I do over here. Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Brooks?
Okay, good evening, council. Regarding the I can use words, the Verkada door access system project currently underway at City Hall. We will be including a contract amendment on the consent agenda at the next council meeting to authorize the mayor to sign an existing change order, any additional change orders not to exceed the original budgeted amount for the project. Basically, we had come in short of the budgeted amount, but we've had a couple of things crop up and just wanted to bring it to your attention. That'll be on consent at the next council meeting.
Okay. Thank you for the update, Brooks. Questions? Yeah.
With that new system, do we need to get new badges to that system or the existing ones?
No, we're gonna be able to reuse our existing badges.
Okay, thank you.
It's good news. All right. Any other questions for department heads? Any final department head comments? Seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda. We have items A through E this evening on our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve consent agenda items A through E.
Second by Mr. Tabor. And Mr. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? All right, Mr. Tabor?
Tabor, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Lived I.
McVeigh, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Newell, aye.
Thank you, council. We are now moving on to our business agenda. The first item, we have a couple of, just for the benefit of the public, we do have a couple of large public works items that we're going to be discussing and acting on this evening. And the first ones of those are the Public Works Maintenance and Operations Facility consultant contract, and this is Public Works Director Diane Linius.
Right, Commissioner. Where's your Zoom? There's a slideshow. It's quad. Oh, there you go. This one. We got it. So we're here tonight to bring forward a contract with Shive Hattery, which is the Helix Group. They're an architectural firm, as a consultant to move forward with 30% design on the Public Works facility and site plan approval and cost validation. This is a high priority project for Public Works and for the city. And we want to share for citizens a little bit of background on Public Works before we ask for approval of this contract. So Mike and I will tag team on this effort since he's been with the city for more than 30 years. But the first thing I wanted to do was just talk about why a new building or a new Public Works facility is important. And that what we mean by a new Public Works facility is a mechanic shop and vehicle and equipment storage. It's a total of 3 buildings on the adjoining acreage to our existing administrative building on Viking Avenue. I think most citizens may know, or maybe they haven't realized as they drive by the Quonset hut on Iverson, that for more than 50 years, our Public Works have been entirely located in that very aging facility, which wasn't new when they moved in, by the way, in the 70s, early 70s. That site has been undersized for operation. It's located near a critical area and near a creek. It has flooded in the past. We currently have safety concerns for staff. We currently have a mechanic and a mechanic assistant that work over there by themselves. We also have our other members of the Public Works team that swing by to pick up equipment or to pick up materials at that site. We have safety concerns. The mechanic shop does not have an overhead crane. We do work with some very large equipment, as you'll see in some pictures. Our mechanic he's a mechanic for all types of vehicles, including diesel. He does have to pull engines. He has to work underneath equipment. And we want to provide the best possible shop for him to safely perform his work. The rest of our team, other than those 2 or 3 people, are located at the Public Works Administrative Building on Viking Avenue. So we're currently split in terms of where our equipment is located, where our materials are located, and where our staff is. So there's a bit of driving back and forth that happens there. Construction of a new facility would allow us to move away from the Quonset hut completely and for that site to be repurposed for another function that better serves the community. The farmers market concept is something that has been spoken with council in the past, and there has been interest there. The project will be phased to provide a maximum build out. So we went through a design process, schematic design process for a full build out of the site. You might recall that was a $25 million project or $24.8 million project when it was estimated in 2024. What we would like to propose to council is, with the knowledge that we may be outsourcing solid waste, we want to reduce the size of the project, not making things go away, but thinking of it in terms of what do we need and building that and phasing for the full use of the site in the future. And I would call that pretty modest phasing, and I'll share an example with you. Now, since Mike is our historian for this evening, I'm going to turn it over to him to talk a little bit about the history of Public Works, which he knows better than anybody.
That kind of makes me feel old. Thanks, Diane.
He's younger than me, though.
As we talk about, the Quonset hut's been there since along from the stories I heard when I started with the city. That that actual facility came over from the Korean War, and it was a secondhand store before the city bought it many years ago. So it's been around for a long time. In 2000,
Mike, can you move the microphone a
Oh,
little closer to you?
sorry. In 2008, we purchased the Viking Avenue property over there next to what's known as the church, the Decant property. And we started construction of Decant Transfer Station in 2014 timeframe and completed that. At that time, we were planning on building the full meal public works facility on that site. The site was small for was definitely too small for the full function of public works admin and operations. Honestly, I'm kind of glad that we're where we're at because we were able to get the adjoining church property, and that allows for much greater growth for not only for public works but for other city functions moving down the road. So in 2021, we purchased the adjoining church site of 7.4 acres, and we did a little remodel and moved in there in 2022. And then from 2022 to now, we've been working on trying to figure out how to build a new mechanic shop, vehicle equipment storage, and everything that's over at the public works site and get it over to the Viking Avenue site so we can be a lot more efficient. This goes back to when I started with the city back in 1993. That shows you that was our entire public works yard at that point in time. We had, right now, there's a very large road known as Iverson that goes right through the center of it. So took a lot of area away from us. This was what it looked like in 2024. Another 10 years down the road, we took another chunk off it and let Coffee Oasis use our admin building. Another 10 years down the road, we took the parking lot away to add public parking. And so we just keep getting smaller and smaller over there. The current size of the buildings is about 14,000 square foot altogether for the buildings. You can see the current location of the Quonset Hut, the shop. Right now, the two bays you see for the mechanic shop, that's all the mechanic has to work in. And so when we have one large truck broke down in there, it pretty much takes up the entire shop. And a couple of our vehicles, we can't even shut the door to the shop to work on it because the vehicles are larger than the current mechanic shop. That is one of our Vector trucks. That's a $600,000 piece of equipment. We have two of those. So you're looking at over $1 million in just two pieces of equipment, and figure that with the rest of our equipment. I figured out today we have over $6 million worth of equipment that we take care of over there. If I take all of the daily driver, the type of stuff that stays outside all the time anyhow, we still have over $3 million worth of equipment at the prices of when we bought them. So that's figure, add another 25% to that price for current prices.
Mike,
yes, sir.
Isn't that the one that we have to park on an angle?
Yes.
To have it fit?
Yeah. It won't fit in the building, so we have to park it at an angle. It'll fit in the new building, hopefully. Yeah, no, definitely for sure. That's the whole reason we made it that big. But here you can just see one of the equipment bays, and you see how unorganized things get because there's just no room, and you have to stack stuff on top of stuff, move stuff out of the way, move around. It's challenging at best for sure. And this is our Viking Avenue site. This shows our Public Works Administration site that used to be the Nazarene Church. And right adjacent to it is the Decant property that we purchased. And on that property out in the field is where we're proposing the new buildings, the new Public Works site, buildings 1 through 3. Just more pictures of the site. There you go. Any questions on the history and the need?
Okay, so what we did this year was we went through an RFQ process to select a consultant to help us proceed with the design and the project. We received 6 proposals. From those 6 proposals, we interviewed 2 firms. Shive Hattery, also known as Helix, was selected as the most qualified. They have an office in Tacoma. Their operations and maintenance facility experience includes the Shelton Maintenance Facility, Lake Haven Water and Sewer District, City of Federal Way, WashDOT, and others with similar type facilities to what we have. We also have looked at a number of facilities. We've also compared the square footage of what we currently have and what we see other cities our size have. And we feel like we are in the zone of what others are building. It's interesting, Mike did this research, and there's a lot of small cities like us that have a 15,000 square foot facility, 15 to 20,000 square foot facility that is currently too small for them. And they either recently upgraded or they're in the process of doing it just like us. So the scope of work for Shive Hattery Helix, which is in your packet, is for 30% design and site plan approval. That's the first step in moving a project forward. As part of that, they're going to look at the cost validation because this is 2 years later than the previous cost estimate that was performed. And they're going to look at reducing the size of the project. And by that, I mean phasing. We do have a number of ideas on how to bring the costs down. When we budgeted for this project years ago, we were thinking 5 million per utility, plus 5 million from the general fund. I'd like to stick with those numbers from a budgeting perspective and bring the project down to that size. So what we currently have in the budget for design is $1.4 million. We spent $50,911 on the schematic design. And this design contract to get through 30% site plan approval and cost validation is $289,266. It does include for the site plan, the geotech work and stormwater analysis and all the things that go with that and surveying. So that's why it is that amount. When we roll up our sleeves for the cost validation, that's really Mike and I and a few others, the architect and the cost estimator. So we can make sure we're looking at the right places to cut. And that leaves us a little over $1 million for the remainder of the design. So just to remind you a little about the 3 buildings. The building in the middle is our shop. It also includes workspace. By shop, I mean our mechanic shop. Our mechanic will work in that space. It also has a lab for our water group. They have to do water quality testing for our drinking water. It also includes an area for our facilities person that does all of the work on all of the buildings and structures that the city owns. It also includes bays for each of the utilities for the storage of their what I would call active equipment and the things that they need to do indoors. The upper building, building 2, is an enclosed building, and that's for parking equipment and materials that need to be inside. You looked at the quality of the truck that Mike shared, and those pieces of equipment are best maintained by storing inside. And then the lower building is an open bay building. So that is also for storage of equipment. We went through a number of scenarios where we thought, gosh, if we reduce the number of buildings or downsize those, could we still fit all of our equipment in the buildings? And it's pretty amazing how much equipment we have and how much it fills up. But we do have some ideas on how we can bring the cost down. The second thing on that middle building, you'll notice the square footage on each of those buildings. It's 24,500 square feet, about 15,000 square feet is the main floor. The other 10,000 or 9,000 is the mezzanine. We believe we could delay building the mezzanine, which is the second floor, and that could be used for future storage. So that's one of the options that we're thinking about. If we go to the next slide, this just gives you an idea of the layout. I know it might be hard to see, but you can see the larger open space. That's our mechanic shop. We have some drive-through bays, which are very nice for him to be able to work on, him and his team, to be able to work on a piece of equipment and have another equipment that you can just drive right through a vehicle. And then this just shows the upper stories. So the shop area, which is open, does not have an upper story. The other bays have a potential for an upper story. When we visited other facilities, they often use those for the storage of the small items that you need for repair or future offices, things like that. So with the height that's needed for the shop, that is space that could be used as a mezzanine for other uses. So what would it cost bringing the $25 million project down to around 20? This is just gives you an idea of what we could do. We could reduce the mechanic shop building by the bays on the end. And Mike, if you go back there and just show them what that would mean, maybe.
That would be losing these 4 bays down here, 2 to 4 bays down here. So either taking 2 bays off or maybe even possibly 4 bays off.
So basically make the building shorter. We're still planning for the whole building, and at some point in the future that element of the building can be built. We feel like that's a way to bring the cost down. If we go to the next slide, there is a generator plan for the site, deferring that as a potential way to bring costs down. And then also deferring one of the buildings until later, bidding it as an alternate, making a decision about whether or not we want to fund that. And delaying it till later. If we did that, that would be the open storage building, which is building 3. We also feel that we could reduce some of the aesthetics. You saw there's quite a few windows on there. Those types of things can be a little bit expensive. We can take off some of those exterior finishes. But we also have to keep in mind that the cost of a project like this never goes down. So we're already looking at a 2027 build, and we will need to escalate it to the current price for 2027. And then there's other considerations to be determined. Maybe you have some ideas you want to share with us. We're going to roll up our sleeves with the estimator and with the architect and come up with what we think is reasonable. We want it to be of great value to the citizens and of great value to the Public Works team. And we're very excited to move ahead with this project. Next slide. Just a reminder on funding, we have been planning for about 5 million per utility. I have crossed out solid waste. In the event that we outsource solid waste, I see us now down to 20 million, and I want to stay under that number. When we did the financial plan for water and storm, we budgeted a debt payment of 380,000 a year in our plan. We planned the rates moving forward to be able to afford that. In sewer, we looked at it, and because Kitsap County's project was not moving ahead as quickly as we thought, that's the $24 million for the treatment plant. We did not do a rate adjustment, but we very much planned to fund this project. We may fund it from reserves because the other project has been kicked out. We were also very successful in getting Public Works Trust Fund money, or we may end up financing it. The big thing that drives sewer decision-making is the $24 million project that's in our sites with Kitsap County at the treatment plant. On the general fund side, there is about 5 million that would need to come from the general fund. And Debbie and I have spoken about a few different ideas on how that can happen from general fund. You might remember that for the Nordic cottages, for example, there was 2.5 million that the city paid from general fund, and then they got reimbursed through a bond. The bond proceeds. You could think about reinvesting that in what we have, or we could look at some other methods, either bonding it or using dollars from reserves. That would be a council decision after we've gone through the process of validating the cost. You've seen these graphs before, and Debbie shared these and explained them really well. But basically what it is the red line is the debt capacity of our city. And you can see the current debt balance and debt capacity on the graph to the left, including what we have on the books now. And if you look to the right, if we were to fund the entire 20 million for this public works facility, we would have in 2028, assuming that happens in 2027, in 2028, we would have close to 5 million in remaining debt capacity. And then it would increase, which is the red line, over time, because it does increase with increased assessed value. I don't believe that we would need to go out for the entire 20 million. When we looked at our utilities, we were planning on 500,000 up to 5 million coming from a utility. So this is kind of the worst case scenario to share with council. So there's some thought put into the big picture. And this was in response to a question from Councilmember Newell. And my goal is to finance less than 15 million. If that would be my goal. So the next steps for us, we have worked with the consultant on a schedule, and their schedule, we would all need a our reading glasses wouldn't be good enough. Let me just say that to be able to read it. So I just wanted to let you know, if we get authorization to move ahead, they would work on the value engineering and cost validation. That would be April through June. We would submit our site plan in July through August, go through that process with the planning department. And we would be back to this group in July with what is our final funding strategy and the scope of work for them to complete the design. They would work on completing the design through November. We'd be ready to advertise and go to construction in 2027. So that's the timeframe we'd like to be on. We want to continue to collaborate with our working group. I just want to remind council that Josh Howerton's our mechanic, Victor is our street supervisor, Ryan Golden is our utilities supervisor, and Charlie's our utilities engineer. Mike and myself have been the core team working on the project. And Helix would be our architect lead. We found them to be very good. And then we would also be bringing our financial strategies to Debbie, the mayor, our city administrator, and myself to make sure that we're all aligned all the way through and bringing that information back to you. So with that, I give, as the Public Works Director, a very strong recommendation to move this forward. I'm certain that my superintendent gives a stronger one than I do, and we're happy to answer any questions and discuss it with you. We feel that this project, quite frankly, is urgent for us.
All right. Thanks, Diane. I feel council will permit me. I do have just a couple of questions and comments, and then we'll hear from others as well. Diane, I just want to one comment on, I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate the work and the effort that's gone into trying to value engineer the facility, making sure that we provide the most benefit at the least cost for taxpayers. And I appreciate the list of possible changes or considerations as we're looking to try to reduce funding. My initial thought was I would start with some of the aesthetic improvements, the windows, and as we all know, the facility is kind of hidden back. It's a ways back from the road, and I think we probably don't need perhaps some of that. On the generator, I guess my concern would be, it seems to me, you correct me if I'm wrong, but we may need some of these vehicles in a pretty major way. Should we have some emergencies, have power go out, storms and so forth? So I'm a little hesitant to start by whacking out the generator. I'd have some concerns about that.
I'll just chime in for a second. And I agree 100%. We definitely need some sort of generator over there. What the thought process is in the short term, one of the interims we can do is we would build it where we would be able to use one of our large 175 kW generators to power the majority of the building.
I see.
At least the mechanic shop, maybe
Okay.
not the other stuff, but.
Okay, so we've got some options there. Okay, all right. And then I did note in the presentation, I thought it was interesting that we're estimating that, if I understand it, each year that we wait, construction costs would increase by $300,000 to $500,000, if I'm reading that correctly. And the debt capacity, pardon me, the cost to borrow per fund is about $300,000. So pretty soon we're going to be kind of chasing one with the other, it seems like to me. So that's sort of, I think delaying it much further is probably not a good idea as I look at those kinds of figures. And I think that's it for me. But thank you so much for the work so far. Look forward to hearing from my colleagues. Other questions, comments? Council, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you for the presentation. It had been my hope that maybe there was a way to do this without having to phase. I'm sort of wondering, what's the timeline then for completing the whole project if we go through these phases? Because I sort of thought the idea was to really get you out of the other site, and this feels like it's not going to get us there.
Thanks for asking that. The phasing that we're looking at is enough to get us entirely out of the Quonset hut. What it does mean is we will have the opportunity to add on to the building later should we run out of space or want to add additional storage. Yeah.
Mr. Tabor.
I just wanted to check. First off, this is an estimate pre 30% design. So I assume that it has a pretty big margin of potential cost swing for the estimate. And then after 30%, after the 30% design is complete, how much tighter do you think those estimates will be on completion costs?
Yeah, a typical number, I don't deal in the building world as much as other arenas, but with complex sites and a lot of different mechanical elements, usually a schematic design that they like to say plus or minus 30 to 50%, which is a really big number. The thing that's unique about this particular project is there are a lot of facilities like this being built, and the cost estimator, even at the schematic level, is someone who's actively involved in the construction of this type of building. And so the numbers that they've given us should be much better than that, maybe in the 20% range, because it's not that complex of a building. The site work is pretty straightforward. So I would expect it to be in that range at this point in time. But keep in mind, it's already 2 years old. The other thing that impacts that is, what are the unlisted items? What are the surprises? What are the special equipment that we need to buy in order to make this fully operational? We will work through those, and we'll have better information on that as we move forward. And our goal is to pick a number and work to it and build it big enough to be able to move everybody. So that's what our goal is. And we will manage to the budget that we have. That's our goal.
And you actually answered one of my other questions, and that this isn't cost split, that this is site work and building work.
Correct. The site work, they estimated between $2.5 and $3 million.
Okay.
Yeah. And the soft costs on a project like this, they're almost 38%. So when we remove something, if we remove all the soft costs, which are the A&E and everything that goes with it, we're bringing that part of it down too. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, with the cost to bring it down slide, like Mike, you had said we could, potentially go from 6 bays to 4. And Diane, you were talking about that as well. I mean, is that essentially just a cost decrease, or is that something supported with getting rid of solid waste? Like, I mean, we legitimately don't need, like, we could absorb the loss of 2 bays because we're cutting a utility out of this. We could absorb the loss of building out the mezzanine in office space because we're, again, divesting utility.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, part of it is directly, yes, if we don't have solid waste, definitely can downsize some, right? But what will happen with a couple of those workshops for like streets and parks and that area, what we'll do is we would end up taking a couple of bays in the enclosed garage and equipment would sit outside. Because we have, and so, you have to give up something to do that. So, we just have to figure out what equipment is the least impacted to be outside in the elements and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
Can I add one
yeah,
other
please.
thing to that while we're talking about that? Now I forgot what I was going to say. Don't you hate it when that happens? Oh, I would say the mezzanine space was space for growth. It always has been considered space for growth. Like we wouldn't need the mezzanine right away.
Okay. Yeah, and I know we talked about phasing, but I think that again, I mentioned this before, I think it was kind of sticker shock from the first night of this. I've said this many times. Anytime it seems that we all give you a project and you're able to do it in the time frame you want, it comes in on time and under budget. Anytime we draw stuff out and we phase either because of need or just because, that's when it comes in over budget and gets more expensive than we planned. So I honestly, like Gary mentioned, the aesthetics, sure, that's something we can look at cutting. I think it makes sense. But I'm cognizant of the fact that just the estimated escalation from the delay already pretty much wipes out what we'd save. And so I'm really concerned that if we phase this to try to be more fiscally responsible, we're just going to eat that cost up down the road because we delay. So quite honestly, I would rather we move forward, we get this designed to what you need now and in the estimatable, predictable, foreseeable future, and we build it. And then, because we do have the capacity, it does limit us to what else we can do, but utilities, public works is a core function of our city government, and we need to take care of it. So I appreciate that effort, but I also don't want you all to hamstring yourselves to try to save money, because I think we'll end up spending the money anyway. So I'd rather we build what's needed to be built, and then Deb will figure out how we finance it. I guarantee it. She does it every time. No pressure. But right. But I think we're gonna nickel and dime trying to save money, and we'll end up spending $1 in the end.
All right. I just want to remind my colleagues here that I think our new policy is we're able to ask kind of clarifying questions of staff, but once we get too far along in debate and stating our positions, we like to put a motion on the table. I do have one more clarifying question, and then I think I will call for a motion so we can have some further debate and discussion. So Diane or Mike, our city is continuing to grow. The population target that we have for within the next 18 years now is about 5,600 new residents. If we were to build this building as at least the initial drawings are showing us with the square footage and so forth, can you just give us a sense of how long you think the facility will last us, will serve us, before we really need to think seriously about additions? That would be helpful for me to know.
The building as originally designed, without any of the cost cutting and stuff like that, was planned for a 50-year build out.
50-year building? Okay. All right. Council, would someone like to make a motion?
Be happy to make a motion.
Councilwoman Libdo.
Move to approve the consultant contract with Shive Hattery for 30% design, the validation phase, and site plan review process phase of the Public Works Maintenance and Operations Facility in the amount of $289,266, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract on behalf of the city.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzpatrick. All right. Other comments, questions? Mr. Newell.
Yeah, just a couple things from standpoint of how to get things built. Speed matters. I'm a big believer that if you have the money and you have the need, you go in parallel, and not sequential. I think you've heard me before, Diane, Josh, if we need to get something built and we've got the money, let's hire the staff and get it built and not drag it out because of people, because the needs there, the costs are such. Couple things on pricing, and we're going to see it in the next presentation. You don't know pricing until bid day. If you look at the spreads on what we have for the perk, there's one that's about 3 or 4% below our government estimate. There's a couple that are 5 or 6% above, and there's one that's probably 10 or 15% above our estimate. I'd say that's actually a pretty good group. We saw one 2 years ago where the bid came in 40 or 50% above our government estimate. So I just caution, you don't know until you get there because there's so many factors. Government estimates are great for going there. And so, the idea that they have about alternates are a great way to mitigate the ability, because if you have a bad bid day, you can still go forward. If you have a great bid day, you pop every alternate and you bring them inside the scope, because you just don't know what the pricing is. The other thing, just from standpoint of costs and stuff, and I am a supporter, we need to go forward, this is the right thing to do, is that, yes, while costs go up over time, so does our ability to pay. Things cost more today than they did 25 years ago, but my ability to pay is greater than it was 25 years ago. And so we can't just sit there and say the cost, we only have $2026. 10 years from now, we're going to have dollars that are 2036. So just put that in frame of reference. It's just part of the dynamics. We should, if we have the ability to pay and it's needed by the city, we go, no matter what the time is. So just social commentary, sorry.
Well, that's what this time is for, Mr. Newell. So thank you. Well done. Ms. Livedall.
This is, like you said, been an urgent need. It's been an urgent need for coming on decades. I want to be clear that I support this at a cost of 25 million or 20 million. We just have to get it done. And I agree with everything Doug said. It's safety and a whole host of other things. But the longer I'm going to save the verbiage, but the longer we postpone this, I feel like the worse it's going to get. So we just need to do it.
Let's do it.
Anything else?
Yeah, just last comment. If we have to shave corners anywhere, honestly, I'd say we build a third building, but that's where we save money. It's an open storage building. It's obviously the building where things that can be outside are going to be okay, or the most okay. So, it can be the least fancy, the most rugged. Because the other ones, good maintenance is cheaper in the long run than having to replace a vehicle. Putting those vehicles in covered, controlled storage leads to less maintenance. And so doing the other two buildings and doing them right off the bat and not delaying saves us money in the long run. And operating costs, maintenance costs, everything else. So I still want to build all three and not delay, because I do worry it costs will go up. But I think if we have to save money anywhere, we save it on the open base storage building. We build it and we just don't build it as quite as nice. And then if we ever had to grow again, that's the one we can replace, because it won't be as big a cost that we replace. So I fully support. I want to see us do this. The mechanic needs to get moved to the rest of the staff. God forbid something happens to him while he's there by himself and no one's there to pull something heavy off him. So
All
we
right.
got to get this done.
I'm going to call for the vote unless someone has an urgent comment or question that has not already been covered. Are you ready to vote, Mr. Tabor? Is that why you're turning your microphone on?
Tabor, aye.
Okay.
Eckert, aye.
Livedall, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Newell, 100%.
All right. I think we need.
Thank you, council.
For that one.
Thank you very
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Diane, City Administrator Gelder, and everybody else. Debbie, thank you for all your financial projection work. And then just a reminder, that City Hall debt we're slowly getting to that point where that City Hall debt's going to come off too. So that's something to keep in mind. That keeps me smiling just thinking about that. All right. Got to keep me smiling. So thank you again to the staff for all your good work. This decision has been years in the making. And I know I and my colleagues are very excited to move forward. So thank you very much. All right. Our next agenda item this evening is the Poulsbo Events and Recreation Center Phase 1 Construction Contract Award, Purchasing Agreements for Approval, and Consultant Contract Amendment for Construction Support Services. Talk about projects that are years in the making. This would be another one of those falling in that same category. Boy, how many years, Josh? 8? Okay. I think it's close to 8, right?
Yeah,
Okay. I think Doug told me the advisory committee met for 6 years, right? Anyway. Okay. And so just a reminder, as I recall, we're going to need 3 different motions on this item, correct, Josh?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So, leading us in the presentation this evening will be City Engineer Josh Rains. Josh, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Good evening, Deputy Mayor. So just as was mentioned, we will need 3 separate motions tonight. So we're here to talk about our construction contract award, our KCDA purchase approval, as well as our consultant contract amendment. And as I go through these, I'm happy to stop at the end of these 3 items and we can make a motion at that point. Or we can wait until the end and make a motion for all 3 of them. So I'll leave that up to you guys, but I will pause in between these 3 items for discussion or questions, or we can keep rolling. Okay, so just a quick reminder of what we're looking at here for the PERC project and what we're getting ready to build. It's pretty exciting. So we have our 2 multi-use fields, our 4 pickleball courts, our multi-use sport court, basketball court, full court down on the south end there. We have 2 pavilions with a 3rd pavilion attached to a maintenance building. We also have our restroom facility with an upstairs office and overview seating area as well. And then a playground with some shade sails. That'll be a great feature for during the summertime in the sun for the people out there playing. So for our bid advertisement, we advertised for about 4 weeks. We received 5 bidders. Our engineer's estimate was just under $9 million. And our bid range was from $8.7 million to $12.3 million, as Doug was mentioning the range earlier. So these are the 5 bids we received. And Neely Construction was our low bidder at just over $8.7 million. And so we have reviewed all 5 of these bids. We've reached out to a couple different contracting agencies for reviews for Neely Construction, as well as analyze the bid results, and had some good conversation also with Neely Construction regarding their bid and next steps. And so everything we looked at was positive, and we're in a good spot to move forward with Neely Construction. And so with that, our construction contract would be $8,739,574, with our next steps being issuing the notice of award to the contractor. We would get a contractor schedule from them that we would review. We'll schedule a pre-construction meeting, and we anticipate construction starting April or May of this year. And then we'll work with Jeff to get a groundbreaking party together, and we'll announce that later. So, and then we're looking at a year's worth of construction, so completing in the summer of 2027. And I have talked to Neely Construction about it. They are anxious to get going, so they're ready to start. So, That's all I have on the construction contract. So I'm ready to move into KCDA discussion unless we want to pause
I
here.
think I would prefer to take each of these individually unless my council colleague disagrees. So, are there questions, of nature to sort of clarify what we're doing, rather than we don't want to get into debate until we put the motion on the table, but do you have clarifying questions for Josh, Mr. Eckert?
Yeah, I just have one. I know we previously approved for some of the buildings as a separate contract because they were pre-built or partially pre-built. So does this contract include like site prep for those prefab to come in and be installed?
Yeah, great question. So, yes, so those building purchases will be separate from this construction contract, but the construction contract does include prepping for those buildings as well as assembly of those buildings, because the like Romtech is who we purchase those buildings from. They will deliver the materials to the site on a large truck, and then the contractor will unload those, and then they will assemble them on site.
Mr. Newell?
Oh, just ready to make the motion. We're good.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other clarifying questions before we put a motion on the table, colleagues? Okay. Josh, do you have a motion you can put up on
Yeah,
the screen?
it's at the end here.
I got
so I'll-
You got it there?
All right.
Okay, go ahead, Doug.
Move to award the construction contract for the PERC to Neely Construction in the amount of $8.739 million and authorize the mayor to execute the contract and sign change orders up to 10% of the contract value.
Second.
All right. Well, I think since Mr. Newell served on the advisory board for several years on this project, it was very appropriate for him to make that motion. So thank you. Thank you, Doug. Other questions, debate, concerns, colleagues want to vocalize before we move forward for the vote? Seeing none. Mr. Tabor?
Tabor, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Lived all I.
McVeigh, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
No lie.
Congratulations on that, Josh.
Okay, thank you. for
Wonderful
that.
that those bids came in, right around the estimate. As we know, that doesn't always happen, and great that we attracted 5 bids. That's
Yes.
terrific news.
Yeah.
All right, now moving on to the next issue.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So now we're here to talk about our KCDA purchases, which is the King County Directors Association. And so as Councilmember Eckert was just mentioning, we have been to council previously for approval of the Romtech buildings. And so this is along the same lines. So we're looking at purchases from Northwest Playground at just over $500,000. That'll be the playground equipment, the rubber play surfacing around that, as well as the playground shade sails and site amenities. And then also it will be Musco lighting. So that'll be all of our field lights and pickleball court lights and basketball court lights. And that comes to an amount of about $900,000. That'll include Musco lighting coming out and being responsible for installing those lights. Our contractor will be laying the conduit for the electrical, but Musco will come out and actually install those lights. And Jeff's super excited to make sure he has remote access into the lights. So he told me many times to make sure that was in the contract. So he can control it from his phone. And then the last piece of this will be with AstroTurf. And this will be installed by Coast to Coast in the amount of about $1.2 million. That covers both fields. It's about 170,000 square feet of turf. And then I'm going to show you a quick picture of a couple of these items. So this is the field layout. Not all of these lines will be on the field, but Jeff has worked pretty closely with these guys to make sure that we have this configured for as many sports as possible. So we'll have some different tick marks in some of these areas that the sports teams will be able to quickly go out there and lay out these different field configurations. Here's just a quick snapshot of some of the playground and site amenities that we will have. And again, just a quick snapshot of what these lights are going to look like, what our pickleball courts might look like, the color of the
rubber surfacing, I think is going to be a little bit different than that configuration because Jeff's been working with some pickleball partners on color schemes. So we'll be working through that. And then just a picture of the field there. And that's all I've got for the KCDA stuff before we move into the consultant amendment.
Okay, I do have a couple of clarifying questions if I could, Josh. My recollection when we first started talking about this project, well, not maybe first started talking, but I thought some of the early estimates for the AstroTurf installation were closer to 2 million. Am I remembering that incorrectly, or?
From what I recall, I think we were about 1.5 million. I don't know.
It was less than I expected, which doesn't happen very often. So, but maybe I was misremembering. Okay.
I think, or from my recollection too, some of the early estimates were higher for various reasons, but working with AHBL and looking at a variety of vendors and then speaking with colleagues all around Washington and following up on recent field installations for a variety of companies, this is coming in right where it should come in. So we're quite pleased with this installation, and there's several nearby installations with the same company in the same exact turf in the same very close ballpark. So we're thrilled.
Great. And just for the benefit of the public, that gentleman speaking to you was Jeff Osmick, our Director of Parks and Recreation, who has been obviously very involved in this project. So thank you, Jeff. My other clarifying question, it looked from the images that were shown, Josh, and that were in our packet, that the pickleball, not only will the AstroTurf fields be lighted, but the pickleball courts will have lights too. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Colleagues, other clarifying questions before we put a motion on the table? Rick?
Yeah, just the one that shows the playground equipment. It just that's the whale with the water feature, right?
Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah, and so just I know a lot of people really, really wanted this to have a splash pad. I was one of them. But I just wanted to say I think the compromise you all came up with works. And for those that don't know, a splash pad, the end result is a splash pad is essentially the same equipment that would be required for a pool. And so pricing wise, maintenance wise, everything, this is a way to get a water feature without having to essentially build a pool without a pool. So I think this is a great compromise, and I just want to say thank you for that. It'll be interesting to see how the well is used by the kids, because I see how the rocks and the anchors and everything are used downtown. So
Yeah.
It'll be see what it looks like when it's in. But yeah, I just thank you for also pointing out the design, that all those lines won't be there, but it's the potential that will be there for use. So that was all I had.
You have a clarifying question, Mr. Tabor? Okay, go ahead.
I just want to confirm, is this AstroTurf or field turf?
It is AstroTurf.
Okay, thank you.
Company field turf.
All right, with that, well, I would entertain a motion.
I'd be happy to make a motion. Move to approve the purchases with Northwest Playground equipment in the amount of $502,750.18. Coast to Coast Turf in the amount of $1,205,000, $1,205,128.68, and Musco in the amount of $908,639.32, all to be purchased through KCDA, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreements on behalf of the city. I also move to authorize the mayor to sign change orders on the agreements up to 10% of the contract value.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzpatrick. All right, council members, other comments, debates that you want to enter into here? Mr. Newell, do you have your microphone on for, oh, it just happens to be on, is that right?
I'm ready.
Oh, you're ready. Okay, all right. All right, seeing no other further comments, questions, or debate, I will call for the vote. Mr. Tabor?
Tabor, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Lived aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Null, aye. Thank you, council. All right, and Josh, we're on to the third and final
On the home stretch here,
phase,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yes. Thank you for that. So yes, for the last item here, we're looking for a consultant contract amendment for AHBL. So they've been a great partner through the design phase and now are ready to support us through the construction phase. As this type of project in particular is not a project that we do very often for our group here, it'll be great to have some additional expertise and support for this very large project. So they're looking to support us from the architectural, civil, electrical, geotechnical survey, and as well as material testing standpoint. They'll be assisting us with some of the documentation, some submittal reviews, RFIs or requests for information, change orders, pay estimates, as well as some of the inspection as we go through the project and project closeout for final warranty inspections as well. So with that, their contract total for construction support is $465,982. And then I did have this summary. This was kind of as we flow through it. So I still would like to talk through the overall project budget. And I can pause here if we want to just wrap up the contract, or I can roll through this and we can finalize the contract amendment.
Sorry, you keep going, Josh.
Yeah, okay, great. So I wanted to share where we're at overall project budget wise and construction. So you will remember that for design, we had a budget of $1.5 million that we are looking definitely to stay within. And so moving into the construction contract, we're at $9 million. And so I starred here and read the items that we're approving tonight. I will note that the ROMTech buildings previously approved were the 1.1 million. I do want to also note, due to the way that we bid the project, we did not award the storage building. So we will be looking to come back and add that as a change order. And so we've added a line item in here for that. That's for the purchase of that building. So it's not in the original ROMTech building purchase. So we will be coming back for approval for purchasing that, and then a change order with the contractor to actually assemble that building on site. We have our construction admin, and then our site equipment, working with Brooks on our IT equipment, and then Jeff's equipment that he needs to operate and maintain the park. And that brings us to a subtotal of $14.1 million. It allows us a contingency of $1.4 million, giving us a total cost of $15.6 million, which is our originally planned construction budget. So no budget amendment is needed, but I will note that in working with Debbie, that Debbie will be coming back just to clean up some bonding stuff. So I don't know if you want to talk at all to that.
Reminding everybody, this is in the budget, but we knew that we were waiting to update the budget until we had the final projected costs in. So we'll be coming forward with the amendment, most likely show up under consent just to get the project numbers where they should be and the bond financing numbers where they should be.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Josh, go back to that. I'm assuming that the bid additive listed there, storage and pavilion, that would be awarded to Neely Construction. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we'll come back for a KCDA purchase agreement, just like we did for the other buildings. But then we would add that to Neely's construction contract to assemble that building and prep the site for it.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Other clarifying questions from colleagues on this or the previous slide we had? All right, Josh, can you go back to the slide with the motions? Thank you. All right. If there are no further clarifying questions, I will entertain a motion.
I'll be happy to make the motion. Move to approve the consultant contract amendment number 3 with AHBL in the amount of $465,982 for construction phase support to the city for the Poulsbo Events and Recreation Center project, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract amendment on behalf of the city.
Second.
Second by Ms. Livedall. Thank you. Before we vote here, I just think it's appropriate that we recognize a couple of folks. One is our partner. This is the Kitsap Public Facilities District, who was providing approximately 2/3 of the funding for the project. Thank you to that organization and for all of their efforts in working with us over these many years on this project. They've been great partners, and we appreciate their efforts and their partnerships. I'd also like to take a minute to recognize former Mayor Becky Erickson, who worked diligently on this project for many years and coming to fruition. And thank you, Mayor, for all of your good work on this project over the years. And also Councilmember Ed Stern, who has been involved in this project for the beginning, who is not with us tonight as well. So thank you to all those folks who are not with us tonight. And I know they were up here voting with us in spirit. So with that, I will call for the question. Mr. Tabor.
Tabor, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Lived I.
McVeigh, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Newell, aye.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Debbie. Good work. Progress. Poulsbo, small but mighty. Another example, 2 huge projects. We've been pushing up the mountaintop for many years, so thank you. Real progress tonight. All right. We are now taking a meeting break. I would suggest we break for 10 minutes, and then we'll be going down to the workshop tables for our workshop session. Thank you. We'll be reconvening about 25 to 7. All right, I would like to call the meeting back to order. We are now moving on to our workshop agenda. The first item that was listed on there, the Visit Kitsap Peninsula update, we will be rescheduling that as the executive director who was going to be with us this evening is ill. So we are now moving on to the special event review. And this appears to be Parks and Recreation Director Jeff Osmick. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, community members. Just one event for Council's awareness. The event is the No Kings March. This is on Saturday, March 28th this year. This is going to be, they're expecting about 3,000 folks, and they have been coordinating with the city, going through the special event application, make sure good communication so everybody's aware of what's needed. They are expecting to set up down at Waterfront Park at 9 a.m. They will be conducting an introduction and starting the rally at 10 a.m. over at the pavilion. They have rented the pavilion for that day. The march starts at 11 a.m. Their route will go from the pavilion down at Waterfront towards Front Street, swings a right down towards Sono Divino where the construction is, and then crosses over the Sono Divino side, comes back, so there's a U-E, goes up Jensen. Everybody following? Up Jensen to Sunset, left on Sunset, and then back down on Front Street. And so they're using established crosswalks. They're spreading out. They have about 40 different volunteers who are marshals. They're going to have high visibility on. They'll have walkie-talkies. They have done this in other gatherings. So the purpose of those volunteers and event marshals are to make sure people stay on the sidewalks. They don't bunch up. They don't get in the streets. Businesses and access aren't blocked. And really just awareness. If someone trips, then you have someone there who can really radio in. This is a First and 14th Amendment, and they are also going to have some amplified sound. The amplified sound is down at the pavilion. There may be singing and chanting or some musical instruments during the actual march on that route. That's what we're expecting. Because of the volume of folks, 3,000 folks, the event organizers have been working very closely with the city, including police and public works. So for public works, that's a lot of folks for our restroom facilities. So they are bringing an ADA accessible restroom and a dumpster. Those are going to be placed down in Muriel Iverson Williams Anderson Parkway in a certain area designated by Public Works. So it's not taking up any parking stalls. And let's see here. And parking. Let's talk about parking quickly this time. They have spread the message to park offsite, so not using downtown area parking. They've also coordinated with First Lutheran to use their lot and are encouraging people to park away from the core, park at First Lutheran, and then walk on down, so that way these stalls stay accessible. And so the event organizers have been actively promoting that. With that, I would entertain any questions.
Questions for Jeff about this event? Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, not so much a question. I just, so everybody knows, I've talked to Jeff about this in the past and Rob. Everybody has their First Amendment right. These events have been going on for quite some time. Absolutely supportive of that. Again, it's every American's right. I did have a concern in the past though, because this wasn't coming to us as a special event or a reservation. What happens if someone does reserve it? And now we have a conflict. And I had asked the question, how do we ensure there's no conflicts? So I'm glad to see this event coming to us as a public event, a special event, with a permit, because now it's known and there's no question of the reservations in place. There's no conflict. They've reserved it. It's theirs. Versus if somebody reserved it on a weekend for a birthday and they show up and now there's two people that want to use it. So I'm happy to see this tonight. Thank you for the work you did and answering my questions previously.
All right. And I would just add, I've been downtown for a number of these events, and including the last No Kings event that did attract thousands of people. The organizers, for everything I saw, they had a lot of volunteers helping out, people dressed in fluorescent vests helping people at the crosswalks. I know besides encouraging people to park out of the downtown core so as not to affect customer parking for businesses. They've also been very good about encouraging those coming down for the rallies to support the local businesses, stopping in before or after. And I think that goes a long way with our local business community because it is a lot of people in a very small space. But they've really, I think, done a great organizational job in the past, and happy to hear that they've been in close contact with the city on this event. So any other comments, questions, concerns? All right, Jeff?
I just want to say this was a wonderful working with the event organizers. We had early awareness. We, as Councilmember Eckert and Deputy Mayor McVeigh were saying, it's all about good communication. So it sets everybody up for success. And it was, we had early, ample, and frequent good communication working with them.
All right. Thank you very much. So this will then go forward to the consent agenda for next week. Is that right, Jeff?
This was just awareness
Oh, just
for the
awareness.
special.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Thank you, Council.
All right. Moving on to our 2026 Comprehensive Plan Amendment. And pardon me, this is Nicole Coleman from our Planning Department.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. Nice to see you. As Deputy Mayor said, I'm here to present the 2026 Comprehensive Plan Amendments. I'm going to give a little bit of background, especially because we have a few new council members who may not have gone through this process previously, because we have not done this since 2022. So as you know, the comprehensive plan describes our 20-year vision of the city of Poulsbo and how that will be achieved, different topics such as land use, community character, economic development, transportation, capital facilities and utilities, parks. It is mandated by the Washington State Growth Management Act to be updated every 10 years. As you know, we just finished our major update last year. But between those major updates, we are allowed to process annual amendments, which we can do once a year. So this is that process. Who can initiate amendments? Any interested person, property owner, citizen, city staff. There is an application and a fee associated. And then again, the process that we would go through, and I'll explain that to you. There are two types of amendments. There are site-specific, or what otherwise known as map amendments, and then there are text and policy amendments. This is a previous one from 2022 showing what a text amendment could look like if it was brought forward in this package, but that's the two types of applications that you'll see. There is approval criteria that's codified in PMC Chapter 18.210, and it states that in order to grant a comprehensive plan text or map amendment, one of the following must apply. So in the staff report that you'll receive as part of your agenda packet for April 1st, staff will evaluate and explain to you how it meets one of those or more. The review process is a type 4 review process, which is also codified in our PMC 19.40.050. It requires a public participation plan, which was completed and is on the project website. We are required to notify the Department of Commerce. So anytime we have a zoning text amendment or map amendment of any sort, we are required to notify the Department of Commerce. A notice of application is required, SEPA determination. And then there's a Planning Commission public hearing, which provides recommendation to council. And then, of course, City Council public hearing and ordinance adoption. So as you can tell by the check marks, we are at the last stage of this process. What it looks like in terms of timing, since we are only allowed to process once a year, we have a deadline every year of November 15th or the next business day if that falls on a weekend. So we accept those applications up until that date. And then we actually, Heather was here with you in January to set that docket. So the council will say yes or no to moving forward any those applications. And at that time, you could also choose not to. Since I've been here, I've never seen that, but it's always possible. Again, then we notified Department of Commerce, did the proper noticing. The Planning Commission held a workshop on February 24th and a public hearing on March 10th, and they recommended approval to City Council. So we're here tonight for your workshop, and then the public hearing for City Council has been noticed for April 1st. To give you an overview of the applications, they are separated, so you'll get 2 staff reports as part of your agenda packet. So we separate out city-initiated applications and private property owner-initiated applications so that if there is any controversy or any concern, they don't get tied up together. So this first round are city-initiated applications, and it starts with a request to redesignate and rezone a property that is now under park ownership and is currently zoned office, commercial, industrial, and will requested to be rezoned to park, which is known as the Catherine Edwards Park, if you're not aware. And that's just an example of why it probably was donated to the city, given the wetlands and Johnson Creek goes through that. The other is something you just talked about tonight. It is the Perk properties, which were purchased by the city last year. And so this is a request to redesignate and rezone from business park to park, the 2 properties associated with the Perk project. And then this one was just recently transferred over to the city of Poulsbo as it was a washed out mitigation site, I believe. Jeff left, but he could have clarified that. And it is off of First Avenue, the part of First that doesn't connect to Betty Iverson. It's the closest cross street is Bond. And it is currently zoned residential high, and the request again is to rezone it as park. And the last one, which I'm sorry, that is the wrong map. I forgot to switch those out. It's this parcel, not the big one. I will change that up in your next presentation. This is the, yeah. Your memo should have been right, but my presentation is wrong. It's the Cala Vista Stormwater Park associated with the Cala Vista subdivision. There's a stormwater vault underneath, and it was donated to the city with some minor improvements on top. So this would rezone it from residential low to park. In addition, from the city, there's a text amendment to update the capital facilities, the capital improvement project list, which is under table CFP 4 in chapter 13 of the comprehensive plan. And we do this, ideally we do it yearly so that it is adopted in our comprehensive plan. So when the engineering public works teams goes out to grants, that it's, if for any projects that it's always required to be in your comprehensive plan, generally with grants. So it just keeps us updated and consistent. But this is the CIP that you adopted in December with the budget. So this year we had 1 private property owner initiated application, and that comes from the Ogilvies. They own the property off to the west here, which is unincorporated Kitsap County. It's not in our UGA. And so they also own these 4 properties in front, and their request is to redesignate and rezone from business light industrial to residential low for home sites for their children. So that is the request from the private property owner. And it'll be outlined in the staff report, but given that there is adjacent residential zoning, smaller lot, this is Somerset, that development here, and this is some weird light industrial zoning that if they owned it, we would love to also rezone it because it's just strange and weird space. But because it's adjacent to a residential low, it's consistent with requirements to rezone and redesignate.
Nicole, what is
Yes.
the cross street there on Viking? I can't quite read that.
Inspiration. So up this road is Snyder Park.
It's going,
Yeah.
Snyder Park and
Snyder
going
Park.
into
Okay.
the,
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
This is a very edge of city limits going towards Snyder Park. Absolutely. Yes. I won't point which one it is.
Nicole, I'm pretty sure I remember asking this question when you brought these to us before, but I don't remember the answer. We have limited amount of industrial in the city. There's no concern about zoning away from any of that. Like I think I asked if there was a minimum, and the answer to that was no. But you all don't.
We don't have a minimum, and I have a slide here that explains the jobs. Because we do have to maintain our job capacity, and our jobs are located in zones like light industrial.
Okay.
But our light industrial, it's a tough zone because it's it's somewhat going away, but there's still a need for certain types of uses in that zone. But this is a really weird location for it and doesn't lend itself well for actual light industrial use.
So when you give us when you give us the actual packets for this, your recommendations and as far as impact and all will be.
Yeah, I walk through it in a little more detail. I'm happy to explain it too, and I will explain the jobs in a couple slides. Yeah, or maybe it's the next one. Yeah, so there's a lot of, even this just little triangle, and there's down here, there's just some weird light industrial. When we zone the city, my understanding is we just there was just some weird spaces that ideally we would not have zoned them what we did. So that's one of them. Oh yeah, next slide. There we go. So one of our planning commissioners did ask the question about jobs, which was a good question and one that it was good to put together the information for them and then for you as well. So if you recall, for those who are engaged in that process, as part of the comprehensive plan update, we were allocated 4,000 jobs that we had to accommodate within our zoning. And with the council adoption of our alternative 4 growth scenario, we were able to accommodate 4,099. So we were above that requirement. So I went through and did the math with, because we're also changing for Catherine Edwards, that's office commercial industrial, and that's been counted as part of our land capacity. The 2 business park properties for the perk, those are considered job zoning parcels as well. And then you have these light industrial here. So I ran all those through the calculation of how we do land capacity, which is a giant table that I would never show you on the screen, but it starts with the acreage and goes through reduction for critical areas, assumptions, reduction for right of way, and then it does a calculation for how many jobs in that zone is typical. And that's how we get these numbers. That's a very succinct explanation of that. But it does show that we can still maintain over 4,000 jobs. And it is noted that we do believe most of our job growth will come in our C zones, our commercial zones anyways. But we do have to look at this when we're rezoning jobs, zoning that supports jobs. So our next steps, the same process dates that I just provided to you, but just a reminder that we have noticed the public hearing for April 1st, and happy to answer any questions or any comments you might have.
Questions, comments for Nicole or the good of the order? Anyone? Doug? Mr. Knoll?
One hopefully easy one. Could I ask you to put this briefing into the meeting minutes
Oh, yeah,
as an attachment? So if I have questions, I know where to find it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
If Rhiannon could remind me to send it to her, I'm out tomorrow. I would appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions for Nicole?
Okay. And of course,
This is quite a bit shorter than your
Well,
more
this is-
recent
this is no
presentations.
big
before
deal.
us,
I love
Nicole,
this.
so
yeah.
we could get used to this.
I know. But of course, when you get the staff reports, if you have any questions, please reach out ahead of the public hearing. Happy to.
Thank you
chat.
for outlining the process and giving a flavor of some of the amendments that are coming.
Okay.
So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're now on to questions and concerns of the council and / future agenda items. I think I'm going to hold, I do want to have a discussion about the workshop format and kind of how we can maybe perhaps provide better direction to the staff by summarizing at the end of what can be sometimes very long and diverse conversations. But I think in hindsight, I think I want to save that until Mayor Stern can be with us. I think that would be a good idea. So, but maybe Rhiannon could help remind me that we want to talk about that next time around. Any other questions, concerns of the council and or future agenda items we want to discuss? Mr. Tabor.
I actually have a compliment for the council. I think everyone's been doing a really good job with during the presentations and before a motion's made, doing clarifying questions and clarifying points, and then bringing up your personal positions and debating afterward. And I think it's been a really good
Liking
change.
that format. Okay.
And I just wanted to commend everybody on that. And it's
Good. All right. Thank you, Mr. Tabor. Anyone else? Mr. Knoll.
Yeah, just on future agenda, If I look at, unless, and I'm probably missing it here, my eyes are crossed at this standpoint. On the April 1st and April 8th, I do not see a discussion about parking or anything downtown. I assume,
Yeah, I made.
I'm just saying it's not here.
No, and
It's
I
not-
made notes on it, so we'll update the agenda.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gelder. Maybe it might be helpful, I'll just go over some of the items that are on the future agenda listed for April 1st. Under business, we have a public hearing, comprehensive plan amendments, another presentation from Nicole Coleman from Planning. Also listed here, 11th Avenue Sewer, Gateway Sewer Project Contract Award. In the workshop, a presentation by Elena Imbach from Vibe Coworks. A presentation from Kim Hendrickson about the Coffee Oasis rent increase, and I'm assuming a new lease would be part of that as well. Okay. Yeah, hold on just a minute. And then a special event review and fireworks ordinance update. So March 25th, Mr. Newell is pointing out to me, we are not having a joint meeting with the council and the port. Is that what you were pointing out, Doug?
Yes, it's
Yes,
just on
it's-
the agenda items in
Yeah.
our agenda.
Yeah, and Rob did mention that earlier. So just for, make it official, there is no joint meeting with the port and the council on March 25th, correct, Mr. Gelder?
Correct.
Okay, all right,
Cool.
just so we're all clear on that. Anything else on future agenda items? Britt?
Well, I guess I would like some clarification. Earlier, it was mentioned that staff will be bringing the parking conversation back on the 1st, correct?
Rob, do you want to give
Correct.
us a flavor of kind of where you and Heather are headed?
So the hope is to bring back to council for the April 1st meeting in workshop, not business. Sort of a proposal that synthesizes all of the feedback that we received at the last week. And then get that additional feedback, refinement, and then bring something back for the meeting on the 8th for approval, adoption, so that we can then move that forward and begin with implementation.
Okay, well,
I don't know maybe how far Rob wants to go, but I do know, at least in my conversations with Rob and with Heather, among the elements of the options that they will be bringing back, some of the differences, there's going to be at least a couple of options on the rate per hour that we would charge. That's one differing element. And then how to handle, it seems like there was some interest in grace periods, be it hourly grace period or a daily grace period. That would be one of the options that would be debated a bit further. I think some other things, probably how to handle some of the ongoing requests. We've received some volunteers and other groups. Anything else, Rob, that you want to mention?
we don't necessarily have to get into this level of detail. I'm asking for clarification because I'm going to be out of town on the 8th. And it's
Okay.
really important that I
Well,
be able to
actually,
vote.
that's a great point. Because I need to train my eye better for the future agenda items, because that would be our first workshop only meeting on the 8th. So it technically would be coming back on the 15th. My apologies.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
You're making
This
me
is why we
better.
have these conversations.
I mean, I
probably.
would
Yeah.
have shown up
All
early,
right.
but I prefer to be here in person for these important
So
things.
only question then with that, moving to the 15th for decisions, does that hurt your timeline?
It possibly could influence that, because, we won't actively pursue sort of those next steps and options until we have the full green light, but
But I would suggest, just like last
Nominally.
year, it's be worthwhile for all 7 of us to be able to be on the record for a
Agreed.
vote.
That would be ideal. I think. You're right. All right. If there's nothing else on future agenda items, we will now be moving on to continued public comments. Anybody have comments for the council before we adjourn? I think that woman in purple really needs to come up here and say, oh, she's telling us good job. All right. Seeing no public comments on screen or in the room, we will move on to any final Comments from council members before we adjourn. Thank you all for good work tonight. We made some important decisions. Thank you all to the staff who are left and who have left us for all their good work tonight. We made some big decisions, long time coming, and great work.
Thing to
Well
add, I
done.
was going to move to adjourn.
I'm
Oh,
not
I will
deputy.
entertain a motion for adjournment.
yes, I move to approve, Deputy Mayor. Well done.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did we make it? 7 o'clock. Look at that. I make millions.